Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we are taking another look at the Tier 10 on the American Heavy Cruiser line at the USS Des Moines. And this is actually my personal account, and this is my Des Moines. The Des Moines is one of those few Tier 10 ships that actually existed. And she was launched after the Second World War, so she did not actually see any action against Japan, but she was still active all the way up to the Vietnam War, and it was just in the late 2000s that she was actually scrapped, whereas her sister, the U.S.A. Salem, still exists as a museum ship. But the thing that made the Des Moines special was the introduction of auto-loading 203mm guns. Yes. You know these little switches that you have, and since this is America, obviously you want to go full auto. And that's sort of one of the few instances of a fully automatic turret that was introduced, where the rate of fire was truly frightening. And in fact, the base reload on the Des Moines here in game is, I think, 6 seconds, and that's round about what she would have had in real life. So if you can imagine... And these are 203mm heavy cruiser guns. If you can imagine these things just spitting out shells every 6 seconds in 1946, that is a truly frightening proposal. But going back in game, the Des Moines is obviously the last of the line, and this line is one of the oldest lines. This line's been around since forever and hasn't really been touched an awful lot. I think there was a slight buff recently, but I can't really remember what it was. But in most regards, they've been existing as they were. The only thing that the Des Moines has been given is a radar charge. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's have a look at the comparison between the Tier 10 and Tier 9. Like I said, the American Heavy Cruiser line of assault cruisers with occasional support cruiser opportunities is pretty linear in its progression. So the Des Moines gets the same rapid reload and the same defensive AA as the Baltimore. And I'm really curious to see if they're going to do something with the AA on these ships in the 7.0 update, because honestly the AA of the Des Moines is truly frightening. And yeah, she does get one radar charge on top of it, and there is a legendary equipment module. Sorry, by the way, if my voice is a little scratchy. I've been a bit under the weather the last week. She gets the artillery plotting room, which is one of those legendary modules that has advantages and disadvantages. So it gives you 8% range, which is really good because the base range on these American heavy cruisers is not the greatest, which makes them at times a little challenging to play. But in return, it increases the base reload time by 5%. Now, 5% of 6 seconds isn't an awful lot. So I think in general, this is a module that's worth taking, and I'm considering doing that myself actually, because an additional 8% range is a good thing, because it does allow you, especially if Tier 10 battles end up being a little bit more tactical, it allows you to be, closer to your team and not the first person to be shot at. Although if I'm out in my Des Moines, it doesn't matter where on the map I am, everyone's trying to kill me for some reason. I don't know why that is. Anyway, comparing to the Baltimore, the Des Moines gets 4,000 extra hit points and takes a little hit in terms of maneuverability, but for a Tier 10 cruiser, she's still pretty darn maneuverable, and she needs to be, because even though she is actually decently well armored, this is Tier 10, and Tier 10 is chock full of things that have really, really big guns and like nothing better than shoot at cruisers. You can use that to your advantage at times, but in terms of the guns, yes, these are the Mark 16 guns, the first autoloader in the world that was introduced. And they do have a base reload time of 6 seconds, which, like I said, is actually historically accurate. The range is only slightly better than on the Baltimore. So 11.2 kilometers base range is not the greatest. So if you can get that up to 12 using the legendary module, that's probably worth the odd reload item. And yes, the guns do actually do more damage. She does a whopping 900 on the armor piercing. And these were the American super heavy shells that were fired, because you may as well add insult to injury. The secondaries are, for all intents and purposes, exactly the same, but they do get a slightly better range and they do slightly more damage. Don't forget that you have them. It's easy to forget with something that fires this rapidly, but unlike the Worcester, the Des Moines actually does get secondaries. So if you're firing at destroyers, you will often find them in secondary range, and you can get a couple shots off with the 5 inches as well. Now, the AA is where the big difference is to the Baltimore. And I'm not just talking about the alpha values. Obviously, 400 small caliber AA is a significant uptick from the Baltimore, but the range of the small caliber AA is what it makes so special. Because she's got a 3 kilometer base range on the small caliber AA. So that means your firepower, where your actual firepower sits, which is on the small caliber AA, comes into play a lot earlier than on the Tier 9. And unfortunately, the 9.3 kilometer surface detection is a bit worse, but again, this is Tier 10. So how have I set up my Des Moines? You get 2 choices. You get fire and flooding resistance, which isn't great, or 1% hit points, torpedo damage reduction, and fire and flooding resistance. In retrospect, and this is what I chose initially when I unlocked this ship ages ago, in retrospect, I would probably go with the damage control center, because the 1% hit points isn't going to make the difference here, and the torpedo damage reduction really doesn't matter all that much because she doesn't get an awful lot to begin with. So more fire and flooding resistance would be good. I made this choice before fire and flooding resistance actually reduce the amount of damage you take from fires and floods, when it was literally just the counter factor, which did not do an awful lot, especially in Tier 10. That's where the original choice came from. So today I would do this slightly differently, and maybe I'll spend some gold just to reset it. Equipment. Like I said, you do get the legendary module. You can spend 250,000 free XP or 5,000 gold to get your hands on it. And honestly, I think it's worth it. I would not recommend taking main battery mod 2, because you will find yourself bow in most of the time in the game. And getting your forward turret shot off makes you pretty much ineffective at that stage. So instead, I'm currently running the main battery mod 3 for slightly better dispersion, because they are a little scattershot, and the rest is identical. You could be tempted to go for concealment. Personally, I don't see the point of it, again, because I am, shooting at things most of the game. But if you find yourself in need of disengaging more easily, then concealment might not be a terrible choice as well. I prefer the steering gear modification for the Traverse. And with the historical camo, which I have purchased for the Des Moines, you get more hit points, you get the 4% range on the main battery, which is good. The 4% range on the large caliber AA, which is also good, and unfortunately you do get torpedo damage reduction, which you don't need. I would have much preferred like a small caliber AA range here and instead, or maybe a concealment or something like that. But it is what it is. So that's the camo if you want it. And it also looks pretty. Now I have an 11-point commander on there. The first battle I actually just unlocked the level 11 for him. So I've just gotten the APCS on the commander. The first battle you're going to see is actually without the APCS. And the second one is with the APCS, because it was timing. I did that on purpose. No, I didn't. It was pure coincidence. I looked at the Des Moines and said, hey, you know what? I need to feature the Des Moines again. And it turned out, I'm actually just like 10,000 XP away from an 11-point captain. So let's do that. Anyway, APCS. So these guns are frightful. You have 2 options, as is usual with the 200mm heavy cruiser or 8-inch heavy cruiser guns. You're a bit in a pickle, unless they're in Germans, in which case you're not, because you just fire armor piercing at pretty much everything. But in general, you're a little bit in a pickle, because they just don't have enough penetration to seriously hurt battleships that quickly. which means you tend to rely on fires. And fires can be a tricky proposition because it takes time, and time might not be something you have. That said, with a 6-second base reload and a rapid reload available, the Des Moines is a pretty decent fire starter as well. She doesn't quite get the high arcs that you get on something like the Worcester. But with the APCS, you have to be switching to high explosive against destroyers a little earlier than you would otherwise, because you will start over-penetrating them. But at long range against destroyers, it's not such an issue. The problem is, again, at long range, unless the destroyers are not actively dodging you, it's relatively hard to hit them. So it is a little bit of a double-edged sword here, really. I personally think still I prefer the APCS, and I tend to just unload, even at longer ranges, just to unload armor piercing at battleships, because the rate of fire means that you're just wearing them down quicker than if you were unless they have just damage controlled, in which case you can switch to high explosive and do a bit more damage that way. All right, so 2 battles in my personal Des Moines. The first one in with a 10-point commander and regular consumables, and the second one with premium consumables and with the APCS skill. Now, before we start, just sort of one word on the style that I generally play in American heavy cruisers. They are assault cruisers. They do have some utility with a single charge of radar, and they do have the ability to support their team to a degree as well, and even with especially if there's a carrier in play, and it doesn't seem to be that frequent after 6.5. I wonder why. Especially if there's a carrier in play, then you can make yourself quite useful and just take down aircraft. So what I tend to do, or how I tend to play in these ships, is relatively aggressively, and just around positioning, and play more towards the assault cruiser role in these ships, which can be a little difficult because you do need to keep an eye on your flanks, because battleships like nothing better than seeing the flat side of a Des Moines and just blasting it out of the water. So you do need to watch out a little bit where you're going, and definitely make use of islands. But I do prefer to play aggressively in these ships rather than trying to sit back and HE spam. It might not be the most damage farming or racking up the highest numbers sort of playstyle. You could always hide behind one of your battleships and just try to HE spam enemy battleships, ignore the destroyers, ignore the cruisers. But for me, these are working class cruisers. These are pull up your sleeves, get your blue collar cruisers. You roll up your sleeves, you get your hands dirty, you do whatever needs doing to get your team to be successful, and that can include escorting friendly destroyers and giving AA defense. That can include slapping enemy cruisers out of the way that pose a threat to your destroyers, taking on enemy destroyers, and at times you will be shooting at battleships. But I tend not to rack up the largest number of damage in these ships, just because I focus on other things normally. That said, if you want to play that more, and you want to play more around just HE spam, damage farming, and similar things, then you may actually reconsider the APCS skill. I'd still recommend it, but there it is. Anyway, enough talking. Let's get into some gameplay. The first round is a 5v5 domination on Haven, and we are facing Lepanto, Anhalt, Double Smolensk, and Shimakaze. This battle, let's us put something to the test, because you could say, oh dear, and I made a video about premium ships recently, and some people said, you know what, premium ships are just overpowered. Some premium ships are just overpowered. Like a Smolensk is a guaranteed win, and having 2 Smolensks in the team, I don't know. I challenge that notion a little bit, but then again, I do have an Argonne division in my team with Yamato, Vermont, and Zhao, so that could get quite interesting as well. Anyway, let's get started. Anhalt. The Anhalt is a little bit lost in a failed division here, but that one's on you. But it's more about the Smolensks, really. So let's go and find ourselves some Smolensks. I'm going to go for decap just because, no one else is. And I do hope, I mean, it's a triple division. They're probably coordinating, so I'm not going to have to call out. So once they see me going for decap, I would assume that Yamato and Vermont are heading more towards C. But the thing is, we never know how the enemy team's playing because it's only 5 of them. And if they are focusing heavily around B cap, we don't know that the destroyer has gone into A. So that was the enemy Shimakaze, but we don't know where the Smolensks are going. And they might be sitting behind islands and just HE farming, as you do in a Smolensk. That's literally the only thing that thing can do. And that might be a bit of a problem for the Yamato, for example. So I can understand if they not want to be too aggressive in pushing, but that's one thing that I'm really, really good in an assault cruiser, because if there's anything that can deal with the Smolensks very rapidly, it's one of those things. Now I'm switching to high explosive because I have spotted, and that's a bot Yamato, so let's get that thing out of the way on the quick. And let's see that we can, I'm not wasting the rapid reload on that just yet. It's not Damaconing, so I'm just going to start some fires. Okay, let's run the rapid reload. We've got nothing else to do, and I've got 4 of them. So never mind. There's a cruiser, and that would be one of the Smolensks, right? So back to the armor piercing. I have also spotted the Shimakaze. Yes, Smolensk, I've seen you there. I'm coming. It's better to avoid the torpedoes. So this is a little unfortunate. I should have saved the rapid reload here for the Smolensks, but well, it's a Smolensk, so I'm sure we can deal with it. Oh, you have smoke. That's cute. I have radar. Bye-bye. He's not stupid, right? He knew what's coming. So I'm actually over-penetrating the Smolensk here because I have to hit him in the center. And obviously he's now hiding behind, and he knows that I can't lob. But I've also got the Lepanto over there. And the Lepanto is obviously a problem for me as well. So I do need to get closer to the island to not be blapped out of the water by the Lepanto. Now Smolensk has just dropped 1 torpedo, but he can always turn around and drop the other one. I'm spotted. The Smolensk is not, but I know where he is. He's right behind the island. He's doing, well, he's trying to be unspotted behind the island and HE farm, which is the right thing to do. But now I see you, and I'm no longer spotted. Yeah, there comes the torpedo spread. That's why I'm already slowing down, using the island to avoid these torpedoes. And now, okay, I took 1. Now this is going to hurt because the Lepanto is there, but I want that Smolensk down, because you don't let the Smolensk survive, not if you can catch him this close. So yes, I'm going to take half my hit points off from the Lepanto salvo, but now I'm going to go back behind the island rather than committing. Because I don't know if the Lepanto is smart or isn't, but shooting at the stern section of a Lepanto will severely hurt him. I could have pushed, because as you can see, he's not actually turning a ship around. But that's okay, I can go undetected and just back off enough that I'm no longer broadsiding the Lepanto. We've got the Smolensks out of the way, and at some point, there we go, I can now lob over the island. So now we've got the tables turned, and I'm targeting the stern section. With APCS, I would probably be targeting the deck. But as you can see with the stern section, the sheer amount of damage you're doing with these 2 or 3s is hilarious, because you can perfectly full penetrate them at this range, and yeah, the Lepanto has been completely massacred. And that's almost game. We've only lost probably our bot. No, our bot's still there. We've lost something, but we've lost the bot to the Shimakaze. But that leaves 1 Smolensk and the Anhalt, which I haven't really seen yet. Oh, there he is. And that Shimakaze over there. So now that we've cleared up this part here, and this is, by the way, if you're thinking about this while we're getting in range of, which is presumably the Smolensk back there, and I'm just going to start blind firing that thing. While we're getting in range of that, this is why you don't want to split up your forces like that, because you can't. Like we've anchored around C-Cup, and they have split their forces in such a way that there wasn't really an awful lot that they could do to support each other well, because half of the team was hanging around AB and the other half was going north of C. So while it is a crossfire, there's a limit of how much you can actually support each other from there, and that allows us to defeat them in detail, which means yeah, that Smolensk has just grounded himself, because he is now run out of options pretty much. Is, to his credit, trying to protect the Anhalt from the Shimakaze, but firing high explosive at it and being bunched up against an island is not a position you want to be in with your Smolensk. So he's noticed me, so he's returning fire. I think the Shimakaze has died. Vermont. Oh no, he's been farming the Vermont. That's what he's doing. But yeah, Smolensk. Yeah, I will prioritize the Smolensk over anything. That thing needs to die, and I want the second one as well. There it goes. Okay. Shimakaze is back there as well. Anhalt. Anhalt, yeah. I can't remember if that thing has torpedoes. Some of these premiums have. But taking it on the bow, let's take out the Shima. He's stuck. He's reversing. Can we get him? Oh, come on, really? Okay, one more. Can we get him? There we go. And Shima's dead. So, yeah. Smolensk. Double Smolensk. Says who? I mean, the plan wasn't terrible for the Smolensk to park himself behind that island, because he would have been invisible to the battleships in the center, and he wouldn't have had any chance to. They wouldn't have had any chance really to do anything about him. He could have smoked. He could have just sat behind the island unspotted. But yeah, I know these positions, so no, that was not happening. Anyway, so the second battle is going to be with the armor-piercing cap shell and also with premium consumables. And we find ourselves in a carrier battle. Honestly, I probably played around 10 rounds last week in the Des Moines just to catch a carrier. And this is the first one where I actually managed to catch one. It is a midway, but then again, I'm in the Des Moines, so I'm not that concerned about that. Midway, Colombo, Vermont, Yamato. That's what I was talking about. Vermont, Yamato. That's a lot of big guns. Iowa, Seattle, and a lone Östergötland. Now the Östergötland is against the friendly Midway, probably able to rush the center cup, but its cage epicenter, I should be able to get into position to cover the center before, especially if the carrier can spot him. So the problem of the Östergötland is not so much being airstruck. The problem is that the carrier is going to spot him. So I'm spawning left flank, and that is, what is that? That is an Iowa. He can take a little bit. That's a Black Republic and a Prinz Ruprecht. They cannot. So I am definitely going to rush the center and hope that the carrier is coming my way. He seems to be going straight down, so we can certainly make ourselves useful when it comes to carrier aircraft. You can't take out an airstrike before it hits you, but that's also not the point. You can completely wipe out an airstrike that has hit you and teach the carrier not to do that again. So he's already about to lose his first group of dive bombers. There comes the second one. He couldn't really prevent the strike but he's not following up. Okay, yeah, the carrier doesn't really know, I think, what he's doing. There's the Östergötland, however. So friendly carrier has managed to spot the Östergötland. Rapid reload up. You do need to lead these shots quite a little. And yeah, I think he's shooting. He's now coming under fire from everyone. So that's what I meant earlier. If the carrier, if anybody can spot the Östergötland, then that's sort of what what I'm here for. So now that the Östergötland has lost more than half of his hit points, and I am in the position that I want to be, and there's a veritable ball of things over there. What is that with the smoke screen? That could be the Colombo, so I do want to back up here, because Christopher, yeah, that is the Colombo. Okay, reverse, because that's going to hurt. Yep, I could have done without that. But armor piercing at the Colombo, this is with APCS, and now you're going into the defensive position, which is bow in towards the threat and unload at the target. These are just fighters, and there's the Östergötland again. I'm a little busy right now, I don't have time for the defensive AA. Haven't really paid attention that I'm actually being attacked by the carrier itself, and I don't think he is going after me, but there comes the torpedo bomber wing. No, he is going after me, I think. No, he's going after the battleship behind me. Yeah, haven't paid attention with the defensive AA, just too busy keeping track of two potential threats here. Östergötland's down. Colombo has just Damacon the Flood, so that's why I'm switching to high explosive. And we'll try to get a couple of fires set on that thing and then recapture the middle ring. I'm not sure. There is a battleship threat to my right, so I do have to be staying behind the island here and be a little careful. Yeah, Colombo has stopped in his smoke. Hasn't realized that he can take it with him. So we are HE spamming the Colombo at this point. Is he looking my way? He might be looking my way. I do want to fire though, because that would be a perma. And yes, I am taking fire from the other side, but that's HE spam. It's not the battleship, that's a single perma on the Colombo. Can I get 2? And can we get 2? Not Damaconing the single fire, but I have to keep... Yep, there comes double. There comes the Colombo's salvo in. And yes, that hurts. So I do want my forward turret back. I am using the Damacon, because I'm already backing off, and I think I'm out of range of whatever has been HE spamming me there earlier. That's the Iowa here, and we are controlling everything at this point, so I think I can leave Colombo to the carrier and to the Iowa. And I do need to relocate because I'm a little out of position at this point. We've just lost the Prinz Ruprecht, to nobody's great surprise. But we are holding all of the capture circles right now, which is good. We do have the Gearing, who is under constant carrier spot, but I don't think they have an awful lot to do about this. Iowa might be in trouble there, because he's going in very aggressive with what little health he has remaining. And there is another... there's still 2 more battleships out there. So Iowa's taken out the Colombo, well done. But I think now he's in a bit of a pickle, because yeah, he's now taking massive fire from over there. Low health Iowa over there. That thing needs to die. Okay, I'm going to take this shot because I need to. This thing is a threat to me because I'm sailing through the center here. And then we can focus on the Vermont and do try to give air cover to the friendly Iowa as much as we possibly can, and see if we can still do something about the torpedo bombers. Now the Vermont has taken down the Iowa, and I am going to now have to unload at the Vermont. Now the Midway is oh, come on, game, really? Again with the rapid reload bug. The Midway is the juicier target than the Vermont, but I am the Vermont's the bigger threat. So I'm not afraid of Midway, but I am afraid of Vermont's shells. So I definitely do want to make sure that because he's shooting at me, and that is potentially dangerous. But now Vermont's got an age-long reload, so we can time the reload and start blazing away with the guns, especially if he's otherwise occupied while he's not paying attention. And again, I'm using the armor piercing here for maximum damage output, because I do need to make sure that that thing dies before he gets to shoot at me again. He might be. I think he's here. There comes the salvo again. Turn in. Yeah, he's healing. So we're just going to turn in, avoid the shots, and now we can turn back out again and finish him off. Despite him healing, that's not going to help you. I am going to out DPS your healing any day of the week. And another last rapid reload up. There's just 1 cruiser left after the Vermont is dead, and I think I've got this thing. Yep, he's dead before we can... yeah, at this point I think we can call it game. And there's 1 cruiser over there that's still being chased by the carrier, but that's about it. Yep, there we go. Well done, well played. And yeah, that hopefully told you a little bit about how I like to play these ships, as a mixture of aggressive assault cruiser, but also mixed in with the sort of support role as a secondary, where you especially when there's carrier in game, get yourself under the planes and make sure that you try and shoot them down, which is always much appreciated by the teams. And yeah, you do have to be careful, however, when it comes to incoming fire. So always be sure to know where the threat is, especially with your relatively short range. Know where the threat is, know where to position, know where your escape plans are, and how to use islands to shield yourself. It doesn't always work. Sometimes you get games with 5 destroyers, and then you're just kind of, you have 1 radar, but that's it. You can still do something, but it can get a little frustrating. Or you can get games where your team just decides to camp the base. I've had games like that where I've just spent the whole game tanking and done maybe 30,000 points of damage before I eventually gone down, but still we've won because 3 of their battleships wasted the whole game trying to shoot me, and just wasted their shots on a defensive position, Des Moines. So, stuff like that happens from time to time. But if you're a cruiser player at heart, I think you will enjoy this ship. It's a good ship, it's fun to play, and it is absolutely devastating against Smolensk, just like a Hindenburg. And that is always a good thing. So that's it for me today. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.